He stood there, breath shaking, hands trembling, staring at the acceptance letter he had waited for his whole life. But instead of joy, all he felt was fear. Fear of failing again. Fear of disappointing everyone who believed in him. This was the moment he had to decide, run again or rise for once.
Welcome to Wonder 5, where stories come alive.
Ayaan had always dreamed big. Not the usual dreams people laugh about, but the kind that kept him awake at night, the kind that burned inside him like a fire that refused to die. He wanted to become a software engineer, not because it sounded cool, but because he had seen what technology could do. He had seen boys from small towns change their entire life through one skill. And deep down, he wanted that chance too. But life had already tested him once. 2 years ago, Ayaan failed the entrance exam he had spent months preparing for, not because he wasn't capable, but because fear had taken over his mind on the very day he needed courage the most. His hands had shivered, his mind had gone blank, and everything he learned suddenly felt meaningless. People said, "Maybe it's not for you." Friends moved on, relatives whispered, and Ayaan, he slowly began to believe them. He started working random part-time jobs, thinking maybe dreams weren't meant for people like him. Maybe life was supposed to be simple, quiet, ordinary. But one evening changed everything.
It was raining hard. Ayaan had taken shelter outside a small tech institute while returning from work. The glass windows were foggy, but he could still see inside. Students sitting with laptops, eyes glowing with excitement, teachers guiding them with passion. His chest tightened. That used to be his dream. And then he saw a poster hanging on the wall. Admissions open, last week. He stared at it like someone had reopened an old wound he had spent years trying to close. The paper was getting wet in the rain, but the words felt clear as day. A voice inside him whispered, "Try again." And another voice replied, "And fail again?" He didn't move, but something happened that he didn't expect. A watchman walked out, saw him staring at the poster, and said, "Beta, you don't lose when you fail. You lose when you stop trying." Simple words, but they hit deeper than anything he'd heard in years. Ayaan didn't sleep that night. He kept the wet poster next to his pillow and stared at it until the sun rose. The next morning, with shaking hands, he filled out the admission form.
From the very first day, Ayaan decided he would become someone he himself could be proud of. Not someone perfect, but someone who wouldn't quit. Every morning at 5 a.m. he woke up, even when sleep pulled at his eyes. He studied, practiced, failed, corrected, failed again, and stood up again. His classmates laughed sometimes. Some said he was too slow. Some said he wouldn't make it. But Ayaan was different now. He no longer wanted to prove them wrong. He wanted to prove himself right. Weeks turned into months, line by line, code by code, mistake by mistake. He kept going. Some nights he cried quietly because he felt stuck. Some nights he whispered to himself, "Just one more try." But one thing never changed. He showed up. Every single day.
Months later, Ayaan sat in front of his laptop, staring at something he had never achieved before. A complete project. His own creation. His own code. Something that actually worked. He pressed run. The screen loaded perfectly. No errors, no red warnings, just success. Tears fell before he could stop them, because that simple green text on the screen wasn't just a successful project. It was proof that he wasn't a failure. He just needed time to become who he was meant to be. A few weeks later, he got an email, a job interview. He read it twice, thrice. His fingers trembled. The old fear tried to return, the fear of that exam hall, the fear of failing again. But this time, he whispered to himself, "I'm not who I used to be," and walked in.
The interview wasn't easy. His voice cracked once. He forgot a word. He stumbled on a sentence. But he didn't break. At the end, the interviewer smiled gently. "You're not perfect, but you're determined. We can train skills, but not passion." Ayaan's heart stopped. "You're hired." He closed his eyes, feeling the world grow silent around him. Everything he had fought for, cried for, stayed awake for, it all became worth it in that moment.
Life doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to show up, to try, to learn, to fall and rise, again and again. Success is not a sudden miracle. It's the reward given to those who refuse to quit, even when their hands shake, even when their heart fears, even when the world doubts them. Ayaan didn't change because he succeeded. He succeeded because he changed. And so can you. Because dreams don't belong to the strongest or the smartest. They belong to the ones who don't stop trying.